This is something written by Unitarian, and I've entitled it, because she didn't, Holidays. It's the holiday season, and as we move into the first skirmish in the battle of the seasons, the words of Rodney King come to mind. Can't we all just get along? On Columbus Day, now rightly rechristened Native Peoples Day, we roll out the light artillery and muster the troops on all sides. Fighting words are thrown up and angry exchanges ensue. Accusations against the character of Columbus are made and seconded. At this point, Italians, oh, and did I mention Deb's Italian, rise to his defense in righteous anger. People who remember fondly singing a little ditty in school about Columbus sailing the ocean blue in 1492 are moved to the defense of the hapless explorer who took a wrong turn on his way to India, barely escaped a mutiny, and then stumbled into South America and became either the greatest and most honored explorer and Italian in all of recorded history, or was a bloodthirsty, gold-hungry, genocidal kidnapper who began the systemic genocide of the native peoples. We spend the rest of the pre-post and actual Columbus Day ducking for cover as the bombs burst above us, bearing messages as viral as a Harry Potter howler. There's the 1001 people who discovered America before Columbus salvo, which is met with a shower of stilettos via the Italian contingent, followed by a whiny and petulant blast from the worshippers of America as taught in grade school crowd. The people I represent, the who gives a shit about Columbus Day crowd, finally some laughs. I was beginning to wonder why we care about a holiday that has no day off and no huge turkey dinner, but are hopeful that Native Peoples Day will soon correct this oversight. By the time the pre and post skirmishing is finished, everyone is either weary, seeing red, or skulking, which brings us to the opening shots of the next engagement. This battle is fought with that same troops, but with heavier weaponry. True historical thermonuclear howlers are unleashed and drop from mini mushroom clouds bearing the truth about Thanksgiving blasts, in which all trace of the mythical pilgrim native first Thanksgiving is shot full of holes. Trumpets sound, and a charge on horseback with sabers by the worshippers of America as taught in grade school flashes into the nuclear fallout. A hue and cry breaks out among those of us who just want to eat turkey and have a day off and get along. The Italians continue to hold a grudge at this point and join forces with those who will not stop dressing their children in little native and pilgrim outfits. An ominous silence descends and a rumbling is heard. The earth begins to shake and a black cloud of indignation descends. It is seeded with packets containing generations of broken treaties, massacres, trail of tears, napalm hollers that burst overhead, and prayers of retribution grenades. This is met by a weak and pointless hail of stone axes bearing "we didn't do it" messages, laced with "why must you live in the past" if hypocrisy tips Stone Age arrows, and a full charge of Italians in Roman battle dress. Those of us who just want to eat turkey and have a day off and get along throw up a cloud of indignation and a few "thanks for ruining the holidays" smartphones. Thanksgiving Day dawns on the scene of smoking ruins in which everyone has retreated to their own camp to eat turkey and mutter amongst themselves. Black Friday is the opener into the final battle of the holiday season. The players change for this engagement as the native contingent is content to sit and watch, and occasionally lob a few true and deadly "we knew you would all make a mess of this" smoke bombs. The day after Black Friday, we hear the sound of construction echoing across the land as fruitless attempts to erect manger scenes on government property begin, followed by accompanying Festivus and Satanic, Festivus poles and satanic statues. a toxic black mushroom cloud erupts from the Fox Empire, and the war on Christmas howler barrage begins. Atheists who just want to have fun march a charge of lawsuits that provokes a howl of outrage barrage from Christians who mount a charge dressed in full Inquisition robes. Standing on the sidelines are those who just want to put up lights, get some time off work, eat turkey, and open presents. The airwaves are engulfed in bombastic Sean Kennedy shrieker blasts, and here's where you can tell this has aged a bit. Bill O'Reilly flaming napalm eruptions. These are answered by a cloud of Jon Stewart, laugh yourself sick missives. We who just want to play Santa Claus and listen to 24-hour Christmas music on the radio reply with a massive sigh of outrage. A phalanx of right-wing preachers clad as Salem witchcraft trial judges are interviewed by talk radio hosts nationwide about the war on Christmas, which spreads a foul stench of misinformation across the land. By Christmas Eve, a satellite image of the Holy Land is obscured by smoke and haze of the battle below, and news footage from the Fox Empire shows Santa Claus ducking and dodging as a hail of anti-sled craft bombs burst around him. The internet is awash in phony images of a bleeding Rudolph lying in intensive care with an orbital fracture of the left eye. Snopes.com is called in to refute this, followed by a rattling of sabers barrage from the Fox Empire. On Christmas Day, a great silence looms over the smoking landscape. All parties retreat to eat holiday dinner, open presents, and mutter. On New Year's Eve, everyone toasts the new year, breathes a sigh of relief, and is thankful that no one has thought of anything yet to fight about on New Year's Day. We who just want to eat ham and watch football and have a day off revel in this brief moment of unity and send up hopeful balloons that read, "See, we can all get along, damn it." So Indigenous Peoples Day is a holiday that many in this country celebrate that honors Native American people and commemorates our histories and culture. In 1977, the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas, sponsored by the United Nations, began to discuss replacing Columbus Day in the Americas with a celebration to be known as Indigenous Peoples Day. In July 1990, at the first Continental Conference on 500 Years of Indian Resistance in Quito, Ecuador, representatives of Indigenous people throughout the Americas agreed that they would mark 1992, the 500th anniversary of the first voyage of Christopher Columbus, as a year to promote continental unity and liberation. After the conference, attendees from Northern California organized protests against the upcoming Quincentennial Jubilee that was organized by Congress for the San Francisco Bay Area. It was to be held on Columbus Day in 1992 and would include replicas of Columbus's ships sailing under the Golden Gate Bridge and reenacting their discovery of America. The delegates formed the Bay Area Indian Alliance and in turn, Resistance 500, a task force to educate others that Columbus's so-called discovery of inhabited lands, and also to protest the conquest of America by Europeans and the subsequent colonization of them that had resulted in the genocide of millions of Indigenous people, as well as the losses suffered by Indigenous people due to forced assimilation. In 1992, the group convinced the Berkeley City Council to declare October 12th as a day of solidarity with Indigenous people and to name 1992 as the Year of Indigenous People. The city implemented related programs at schools, libraries, and museums. The city also symbolically renamed Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day, beginning in 1992. In the years following Berkeley's action, other local governments and institutions have either renamed or canceled Columbus Day, either to celebrate Native American history and cultures, or to avoid celebrating Columbus and the European colonization of the Americas, or frankly, due to the raised controversy over the legacy of Columbus. You know, I'll take it however I get it. And this year, on October 8th, President Joe Biden became the first US president to formally recognize the holiday by signing a presidential proclamation declaring October 11th, 2021 to be a national holiday. So there are 18 states plus the District of Columbia that celebrate something Indigenous Peoples Day-ish. Since we have 50 states plus the District of Columbia, you know they can't all be the same. So interestingly enough, South Dakota started things off. So in 1989, they named the day they celebrate as Native American Day. Several years later, in 1994, Tennessee instituted their American Indian Day. And then in 1997, Nevada instituted Native American Day. So then you have to go into the teens before anyone else has done anything. In 2014, the state of Washington instituted a Native American Heritage Day. In 2015, Alaska formally instituted Indigenous Peoples Day. 2016 had 2 states doing the same, Minnesota and Vermont. And then in 2018, 2 more states did, Iowa and North Carolina. And then 2019 was a big year. We had 6 states plus the District of Columbia. So it's California, Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, New Mexico, Wisconsin, and then, as I said, Washington, D.C. instituted Indigenous Peoples Day. In 2020, Virginia followed suit, and in this year, both Oregon and Texas did the same. I find that particularly interesting, given the histories of both states. You know, Oregon was essentially a sundown state. And Texas, well, Texas is Texas. So, as I said, some of the states do things a little differently. So, Nevada celebrates their Native American Day on the 4th Friday of September. And Tennessee celebrates it on the 4th Monday in September. So, interestingly, in 1939, California declared October 1st to be Indian Day. In 1968, the holiday was renamed American Indian Day and moved to the 4th Friday in September. And there's been a lot of back and forth with California, depending on who their governor was. And Washington celebrates their day on the day after Thanksgiving. So Black Friday. Kind of see that. So what in the world is going on with South Dakota? Who thought they'd be first at anything? South Dakota's designation of Native American Day stems back to a decision by then Governor George Mickelson in the late 1980s. And he wanted to seek reconciliation between Native Americans and whites because of South Dakota's historically bad relations with Native people. And, you know, where our neighbors don't, we know something of that. And it wasn't unusual, even into the 1990s, to see in a store, you know, no dogs and no Indians as a sign. So yeah, things aren't great in South Dakota. They still aren't, but they're better. Anyhow, Mickelson asked the legislature to declare 1990 a year of reconciliation and to rename Columbus Day as a Native American Day. And it passed unanimously. That was surprising at the time. And now that's virtually unheard of to hear a state legislature or any legislature passing something unanimously. So I said earlier that Iowa made Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, in 2018. And I actually had a part in that. Not a big part, but I had a part in it. So I was a member of the Iowa Commission on Native American Affairs for about 10 years. And the commission had been lobbying since their inception for the holiday to be renamed Indigenous Peoples Day. And finally in 2018, Governor Kim Reynolds signed a proclamation. She did that in front of those of us on the commission and about 30 or so Meskwaki citizens. You know, actually their tribe is called the Second Fox of the Mississippi and Iowa, but we all think of them as Meskwaki. There are no reservations in Iowa. There is Indian land in Iowa. That's why we have a few tribal casinos in Iowa. And that's a whole boring area of law that I know little about, and you don't want to know a thing about, but it has to do with the movement of the Missouri River, and over time, Nebraska land actually ending up on the Iowa side. And so, other than those few little acres of land in a couple of locations, the Tama settlement of the Meskwaki is it as far as native land. Their land is not a reservation. They actually purchased the land. It is called a settlement. And they are very proud of their settlement. However, I'm very proud of the fact that there are more Native Americans living in Sioux City than any other part of Iowa, including Tama. We have a lot of Native people here, of many, many different tribes. Predominantly, right now, there are more Omaha than any tribe. And it has a lot to do with their dysfunctional tribal government. They fled here pretty much in the 2000s. And then there are a huge number of people who are members of my tribe, the Santee Sioux tribe in Nebraska. We're Minnewakantawan, Dakota primarily. And we have lived here since at least the 40s. There has always been a sizable population of Native people who are primarily Dakota living here. And that really, we have Lakota, all the 7 council fires. So anyone who Europeans consider Sioux, we have a lot of those here. And then because Winnebago is so close, we have many people who are of Winnebago heritage as well. But we also have, gosh, I think it's 26 tribes represented in our schools. It's at least that. So we have a lot of Native people. And that's why it was important for the governor to do that. I was shocked when she finally did. And I was really glad we were able to have some of our Meskwaki brothers and sisters there. So the one interesting aside, no one's ever totally happy. That should be the caption to this. So I had posted a picture on my Facebook of the governor and the members of the Native American Commission. And it was actually taken by someone who was a member of the Meskwaki Press. and had their watermark on it and all that. And an Indigenous woman I knew railed at me. There are no Native American people there. Like, why aren't there any there? Well, first, at that point, everyone on the commission was Native. So yes, there were. And so I pointed that out and also said that there were numerous people from the Meskwaki tribe, and then put up the picture of all of them standing there with you. And at which point she just totally went off, because who wants to know the truth when they're upset about something? And essentially it was, well, my Meskwaki friend was not invited. It must be that there were no Meskwaki there. Those aren't Meskwaki. And so someone else that was like sort of reading through it up then just highlighted and reposted the watermark. Yeah, they were. Anyhow, but it's one of maybe two things I agree with this governor doing. So she's doing good. And there's two things for good. The other one was restoration of felon voting rights, which she understands how important that is, having had a couple of DUIs herself. So, yeah, I know. I just had to do that. Sorry.